Before then, let's share this conversation between the two men as released by Achimugu himself with you.
Yeah, Mike.
Yes, sir.
How can you ask me what is STV?
I don't know what STV is, sir, and I need to be sure before I start arguing with these people.
STV is a special purpose vehicle. In other words, is a company they incorporate to carry out certain, activities.
Okay, sir.
You see what happened was when we came into, the office, and I advised the president against, open corruption.
Yes, sir.
I told him, I said, give me 3 people you trust.
Yes, sir.
And I will prepare 3 companies for which they will be the subscribers, or rather the directors.
Okay, sir.
So that, if there is any contract that we give, they will act like consultants,
yeah.
And then they are giving a fee.
Yes,
and
sir.
that fee is what we now use, to fund the party instead of, engaging open. So he gave me the names of Fashawe, Andy Uba, and the late, this guy, from Borno State.
All right, Mr. Achimugu, now let's get this out of the way. What motivated you to take on your former boss in the way you have done?
Well, there's basically been 2 reasons which I have repeated over and over on social media. And first is that young persons like myself who serve politicians should never again be taken for granted. And secondly, to warn Nigerians, educate them before the elections to prevent them from making the greatest mistake ever. If Nigerians think that they've seen corruption before, let them wait until they make the mistake of putting the Atiku family into office.
All right. Can you tell us more about how you came in contact with former Vice President Atiku Abubakar?
Yeah. In 2017, he had seen the trailer of a TV show I was hosting at the time. He liked it and had his principal staff officer, Abdullah Yakub, God rest his soul, replied to an email from me inviting me to his house along with my team. We met with him on the 1st of August, 2017, and then a relationship ensued from there.
All right, so before then, you had never met former Vice President Atiku Abubakar?
Before 1st of August 2017, no.
All right. So what kind of relationship did you have with him? Because some people are doubting if you were really his former aide.
Oh, well, at first it was a father-son relationship. We're quite close. Sometimes he would ask me to come over to Dubai to meet with him. I have facilitated appointments of other media aides for him. I've secured admission to schools for him. I've carried out a lot of assignments, some of which I will not be able to speak about on television. It's also instructive to note that as damage control, when they sent some of their spokespersons to deny his ever having a relationship with me on national television, it didn't take too long for some others to realize, it was them digging a grave for themselves, because, it's common knowledge, the relationship I had with him, And so not too long ago, practically on the same day that Dino Melaye was saying Atiku never had a personal or professional relationship with this person, Shehu Mahdi was saying, yes, he did indeed work with Atiku as an aide, I was not just an aide to Atiku himself. I had a legal contract with his daughter Hawa, for whom I was her media strategist, and also with his son Mohammed, who is chairman of Atiku Support Organization right inside Atiku's campaign headquarters, where I was the media director as well.
So if it was a father-son relationship and you had this connection with his family, at what point did you fall out with Atiku to start piecing together information while still his aide? What really happened? Why did you record your boss?
As I stated in my affidavit, my boss wasn't the kind of man that, I could call randomly, because he was always busy and most times his phone wouldn't be with him. So initially, I had to record those calls so I could play back instructions without having to revert back to him, and bother his schedule. That particular phone call that you just played, it didn't quite sit well with me because, you see, people have to understand that I was besotted with the man. It wasn't because of his presidential ambition. I sincerely loved the man, and I was happy to, be under his tutelage at the time, but that particular explanation that he gave to me, because it didn't sit well with me. If anybody who used to follow me on social media at the time can replay, after that explanation, I never went back to engage Kayode Ogundamisi, whose tweet had led to that conversation. Because when I heard what my principal had said, I realized that, there was more to this. It led me to, after a few years, a couple of years, I began to see so many other things within the family. There's this huge dysfunction, that doesn't augur well, that doesn't speak well of the family. It lies behind the facade that people cannot really see. But I am Nigerian, I have children, and so do millions of other Nigerians. And I understand that if this is allowed to fester, if this is promoted to Aso Rock, then the entire Nigeria will be shattered. And so I decided to come out and try to prevent this from happening.
All right, still talking about that particular audio, at what point did that conversation happen?
Oh, yeah. I had seen a tweet by one Kayode Ogundamisi, alleging that Atiku had received a 100 million naira bribe from former Plateau State Governor Joshua Dare. You'd recall that the governor had been sentenced to prison as a result of that particular transaction. Other names were mentioned. And unlike some media aides, I didn't used to defend my principal blindly. I'd always seek clarification from him, ask him for the facts of the matter before I would know what to say out there, So I had sent him an email asking, for the facts about that transaction. And he mentioned SPV. Honestly, it was the first time I was hearing about SPV, and then because I didn't understand it, he called me to explain. That was what led to the phone conversation that you played. I was shocked, with the things he told me, and it led me to begin to try to dig deeper, and re-examine the person I had so much believed in.
Okay, so I'm sure you must have seen or heard that Senator Dino Melaye described you as a blackmailer and attention seeker. How would you react to that?
Well, first of all, Nigerians know who the biggest political clown in this country is, and that's the person of Dino Melaye. And it was a very weak attempt, at damage control. The issue here is very germane to Nigeria's future as we approach the 2023 polls. Let's assume, but not even concede, that I am a blackmailer. How does this change the fact that Atiku admitted to having used SPVs for corruption? You see, they're trying to divert attention. Blackmail is when you say to someone, look, I have this on you. You either do this for me or I'll expose you. I have never done that to anybody. There's no proof of that anywhere. So how come I'm a blackmailer and Atiku worked with me for years and didn't call me a blackmailer until I have made these revelations now, years after I started working with Atiku? So I really don't take Dino Melaya seriously. I think that Nigerians do not have much energy to waste on a man who claimed to have slept on a tree for hours or days or possibly even weeks. He's just a court jester, and honestly, I do not intend to have any back and forth with Dino. Let them face the issues. You see, initially, Dino said that that phone call never happened, that I manipulated it. But you also saw another one of the Atiku spokespersons admit on TV that the phone call happened. That's Atiku's voice, but he tried to explain away the context of Atiku's speech. This is not going away. They cannot explain it away because it is real. It is.
All right, but he has also questioned, I'm still talking about Dino Melaye here. He has also questioned your letter of appointment as an aide to Atiku. He said his principal never had any relationship with you.
Well, Sheikh Umadi, also another close Atiku ally and associate, also spoke on TV and affirmed that I worked as an aide to Atiku. I don't know also what that has got to do with these revelations, really, because I am not making allegations against this man and his family. I am putting forward what they have said themselves. Whether I was officially an aide or not is not even up for argument. Everybody knows, it's common knowledge, because that's how everybody knew me, right from time. But the issue here is whether aid or no aid. Did Atiku say these things in that phone conversation? Once you authenticate that phone call that actually did happen, then there is a case against this person. Nigerians ought to begin to ask themselves, is such a person fit to be president of this country? That is the only issue that matters. That is the only thing I'm willing to discuss. What Dino says is of no importance to me. It's just a political job after all.
But Mr. Achimugu, do you have any documents to prove that you were indeed an aide to Atiku Abubakar?
When Atiku began to prepare to run this election, he set up a technical committee for his 2023 election, headed by Raymond Duplessis of AIT. I received an official letter of appointment in the media arm of that committee. I also received a letter of appointment from Atiku's son Mohammed as Director of Media for Atiku Support Organization. I had an office domiciled right inside the headquarters of the Atiku Campaign Organization. And if you remember my first video, I didn't only describe myself as an aide, I also said I was a facilitator. And everybody seems to be skipping that part as well. I have provided proof that I was actually, an official appointment. I've provided proof that I resigned by myself in January of 2022, about a year ago, from the Atiku political structure, after which I became, media consultant to Professor Kingsley Moghalu. So this is not up for argument.
All right, I know you tried to touch on this earlier, but there is another accusation. Dino accused you of using fake technology known as artificial intelligence for the voice note you released. So can you go to great lengths to prove that it is not fake?
People's Gazette have never contacted me up to this moment, but I did read their report where they say that their voice recognition experts had authenticated that call before, they put out their story. Secondly, I saw an affidavit of fact. All that is left is for the relevant agencies and any member of the public to subpoena the networks. I put out the phone number with which His Excellency had called me on the day and the phone number by which I had received the call. All everybody needs to do is seek the transcript of that call from the networks. The moment you authenticate that phone call actually did happen, there's nothing else. And so my affidavit of fact is there. I'm willing to present myself to the law. I'm not even a tech person. I don't know how to manipulate these things. But the reason Dino and his people would know is because this is what they do, and that is why a few days later, and lacking any tangible defense for their master, they went ahead to forge a British Airways flight ticket in my name, claiming that I had left Abuja Airport for the UK, on the 11th of January. I have never had a UK visa in my life. I have never booked a flight on British Airways. I had to write British Airways via their Twitter handle, seeking an explanation for that. And they did respond and said that that flight ticket and its reference number does not exist in their systems, meaning that it was forged. I put out this information with a screenshot of their reply to me. So I have nothing really to defend that.
The relevant anti-corruption agencies haven't said anything about your revelations.
Oh, well, it's up to them. I can't force them to do their job. My information, my duty is to put out the facts of the matter for Nigerian voters to have the opportunity to properly assess, one of the candidates who's running for election. 2023 is going to be a watershed year for Nigeria's future. Going forward, everybody needs to be put under the microscope. And with the volume of what I know, remember, I have been saying, and I'm not kidding, that there's so much I know that if I put out there, will really destroy the fabric of this nation. In respect to His Excellency, a man whom I still respect, in spite of all of this, I am limiting what I put out there to only the facts that are enough to guide voters, because if the agencies will not do their duty, then it becomes just a moral issue. And so that is left for Nigerian voters to make their decisions. Is this the kind of man and family that you want to become your president in 2023? I think I know what the answer is.
Now, some people are of the opinion that you seem to be ruining your future for this level of exposure, that people will not be comfortable dealing with you in future. Are you not concerned about this perception?
I am not. You see, when Atiku comes out to say, Tinubu begged me privately in 2007 to become my VP, that's putting out private information, yes? When Tinubu comes out to say, look, Atiku sent Akonde to me, begging me to be his VP, that's putting out private information. When Okonjo-Iweala wrote a book revealing, private conversations, between herself and some governors, which governor approved this and did not approve that, who said this and who didn't say that, nobody saw it as, breach of privacy. People write a lot about these things. President Obasanjo wrote My Watch and revealed a lot of things, that had been discussed, between himself and his former vice president. Nobody says it's a breach of trust. Is it because mine is not in a book form? Why am I giving out relevant information, both for security agencies and for the Nigerian public to know what goes on behind the scenes? Very critical to their future, and anybody calls this breach of trust. Atiku is not the only person I've worked with as media director. There is no other person I work with, whom I have come out to make these revelations about, because they are people of honor. A man like Professor Kingsley Moghalu, for instance, I did work with him as well. And even though he had lost his presidential primaries, he still came out, to praise the work I had done for him and even write me, a letter of personal recommendation. So if anybody chooses to see it this way, I would say that the majority of the people who are saying this, by the way, are Atiku supporters who are still saying these things, to divert attention from the core of the issue. I'm really not worried about that. Those who trust me, trust me. And if anybody does not trust me after now, well, still so be it. I know I have done my duty to country.
Yeah, from your explanation, you seem to be very close to Atiku and his children. So at what point did you decide to start documenting your transactions with Atiku and especially his children?
Like I said, the SPV conversation, it disappointed me, for starters, and then there have been subsequent issues. I mean, between 2018 and now, 2022, it's a period of 4 years. And the things I saw by reason of my, relationship with the family, aren't things I can really put out here at the moment, because of what the effect will be. I am putting this out now to guide voters. Do not make the mistake of voting for this person. I had to record those things at the time it became imperative to do so, because I knew that this moment would come, and I was going to own it with my chest, because Atiku is one man and not God. Nigeria is a nation of 200 million people. People don't need to like me or trust me to examine the facts of this matter and make the right decisions, because every decision made by the larger population, the larger majority of 200 million people, will impact the entire nation going forward. It's not something to joke with. And like I've said, if I die as a result of this, I die satisfied.
All right. Do you have any other evidence to share? Because I see you have shared part 1, part 2, and 3. Are we to expect more revelations, or have you played your last card?
Well, I think I've told you 2 or 3 times now that there's so much more I'm not willing to put out there. A few minutes before this program began, I just put out another recording of Hawa Atiku, Atiku's daughter, saying that Atiku's wife, his first wife, Titi, who is billed to be first lady should Atiku win, uses juju, voodoo, for mind control. There's this dark cloud. You see, corruption, money corruption is not the only driver for the unsuitability of a person, for a leadership role. There's so much dysfunction, so much darkness behind the facade of the Atikus that made me fear. There have been, talk about assassinations. There's been talk around terrorism and so much that I cannot, in all honesty, put out there at the moment, because even with the little I put out there, as you can see, like you said, the relevant agencies have not done anything about it. The public cannot save me. I have to look over my shoulder for the rest of my life. But if need be, I will come clean about everything. But as of now, yes, there's so much more. I have not even scratched the surface. I have not.
All right, so if there is so much more, like you say, and you insist that you're doing this so Nigerians can choose wisely, why then are you keeping more revelations that can help Nigerians choose the best?
Well, the question will be, what have Nigerians done with what I've put out already? The people who are calling me blackmailer, saying I'm blackmailing, a man who confessed to ripping this nation, are they not Nigerians? I have children. I'm trying to keep my children safe, even if anything is going to happen to me. So I've done my part. I'm doing my part. Let Nigerians, the rest of the other Nigerians, do their own part as well.
Okay. Now, some people have also argued that these are mere allegations, which can't be proven in court.
Well, let's leave that for the relevance. I cannot preempt the law. The issue is, did this phone call happen? Yes, it did. I can prove everything I put out there, which is why I have sworn an affidavit of fact. So I'm ready to be tested by the law and bring myself to scrutiny. Are they willing to do the same? That is the question.
All right, Mr. Michael Achimugu, we will continue this conversation right after this break. Please stay with us.
It's always a great morning on the TVC Breakfast Show.
Thanks for joining us on TVC Breakfast.
With the array of stories that matter and what's behind them.
As you say, the first blow indicates the direction of government.
Tell us what really is going on between your union and the federal government.
Once it's generated, you have
don't use it, it's waste.
We are not even sure whether we have a strategy for security.
Are you saying that there was nothing wrong in that?
Was he the one driving the taxi?
Answer the question.
Reveal your morning with all you need to know.
Like
Yes, just mundane lyrics.
Yes.
How does that fit into your scheme of events or duties right now?
No chief of staff, no general has the right to call a governor to order. The governor has been elected by his people.
Start your day right, because this is the breakfast show that adds to your breakfast. TVC Breakfast, weekdays at 7 a.m. only on TVC News.
Welcome back to Politics Tonight, and I have with me Michael Achimugu, the former aide of the former Vice President, Atiku Abubakar, speaking on corruption allegations. All right, Michael, some people also say you're being used by the ruling party. What do you really hope to achieve with this in the final analysis?
When I left Kingsley Mohalu's campaign after his loss in Abeokuta last year, I publicly announced that I would not be involved in political media for 2023. I'm not working for anybody. People need to understand, before they make these allegations, that it would have been more profitable for me to even blackmail Atiku by, sending him all of the evidences I have, threatening him. After all, his own daughter, Hawa, to whom he owed money and was refusing to pay, had to threaten and blackmail him before he paid. I'm putting that out later tonight. It would have been better for me to do that and collect whatever Atiku had given to me, and then the public would be none the wiser. That would have been much more safer for me and my family even. Because by my actions at this moment, my children are not safe. Threats have been made. They have visited my house. My parents are not safe. My siblings are not safe. I knew the implications before I went into this entire thing. There's nobody who needed to motivate me to do this. So I continue to say that it is running away from the crux of the matter if we continue to talk about these things. Because even if anybody did sponsor me, to come out, the fact still remains that Atiku made this confession. What is the position of the law about this? Is it the opposition party that asks its children to confess that they are going to rip Nigeria dry and steal billions and go and reside abroad like their father does if he wins the presidency? It's very trivial. Sometimes I wonder, what do we really want? And if we continue to major in the minor, then many other whistleblowers, people with tangible information, would not come out tomorrow and risk their lives like this. I don't expect to come out of this alive. I'm very afraid, but I will carry on until Nigerians come to a point of realization. The goal for me, like I've said, is just two things basically. There was a personal aspect of my transactions with the Atikus that I will never deny. I do not want young Nigerians like myself. Look around you. There's a lot of young persons who are media aides today, who are special advisors in one field or the other. They are being taken for granted. They are not treated with the respect that is their due. A lot of them are unhappy doing the jobs that they do because of the way they are treated by the political elite. It's my goal is that after this event, nobody takes them for granted anymore. Secondly, that Nigerians do not make the mistake of voting for Atiku Abubakar for president. It will be suicide mission. If that is the only thing I achieve from this, I'm satisfied and fulfilled.
All right. Now, what are those character traits, in your view, that do not make Atiku Abubakar entitled to the presidency?
Atiku is not trustworthy. His word is not his bond. And so, if a man cannot honor agreements with individuals and groups, how do you trust such a person to honor the social contract that he has with Nigerians? I've spoken with so many northern elites who are around him, who have told me why they have not, them in the north, the northern elite have refused to support Atiku's presidency and candidacy, over the years. They do not trust him. There's also a very vicious cabal around him, according to these people. And I have evidence, of this. Very senior people in this country speaking not just to me, but also to Atiku's daughter. I sat down in a meeting in Yola with an Adamawa chieftain who addressed me and Hawa Atiku, and he stated all of the reasons why the North have refused to support Atiku. Atiku's daughter did not have a word of defense for her father. Also, in my conversation with her about Governor Wike, the crisis between Governor Wike and her father, she brought up the Fulani issue, and the fact of how wicked her father is behind the facade. It was in that conversation that she first mentioned assassination, something I cannot speak about here, and spoke about how they will whip the man into shape and anybody else into shape, who does not toe, their lines. So if I've also read some of Atiku's current, aides, people like Demola Olariwaju, Ima, I forgot his Ume also, and others who have in the past affirmed, in their own words, that Atiku is a sponsor of political violence in the North. They've attested to his desperation, and a host of other things. Now, in my dealings with him, in the instructions that he gave to me, I was able to, see what was right from what was wrong. And if there's anything Atiku himself would tell you about me, it is that I would always challenge him, even privately, about those things I felt were wrong for this country, for him to do, And based on all of these things, we've had other people like Governor Wike, the G5 governors, and the rest of them come out, to make very strong statements, and even Atiku's daughter, caught on tape saying, her father believes totally in the power of money to subjugate Nigerians and their political will. The same thing that President Obasanjo had said about him in his book. And so, who are common Nigerians to argue against something that a man's own daughter, biological daughter, who has lived with him all of her lives, over 3 decades of her life on earth, is confirming about him, And of course, there's my personal experiences while there, So, in all honesty and with very good conscience and nothing else, Atiku Abubakar will be a disaster politically for this country.
All right, so in 2022, you bought thousands of copies of The Lion of Jada and set them ablaze. It was said that you did this because Atiku was owing you some money. It is also said that this whole thing is an attempt at revenge. Mr. Michael.
You see, Atiku supporters always make mention of the Lion of Jada project as though it is a badge of honor that their principal cannot honor agreement. It's actually an indictment on Atiku because in 2019, he authorized me to write those books, to write that book, and I spent over 40 million publishing Nigeria's best packaged book in Dubai. He had even mentioned May 29, 2020, after many failed promises, as the date for the launching of that book. It never happened, and we didn't speak about it for 2 years. After I burned those books, because I needed to move on, and his supporters continued to, bring this thing as a dark cloud over my head. I burned those books because I wanted him to know that I wasn't interested in money for those books. I had better jobs, and better earnings after I had left Atiku. Atiku is a man who didn't want me to work for anybody else. Every time I got a job, and I can prove this, every time I got another job, I always, sought his opinion, and his email to me will always be, Mike, please don't take the job. I always respected him. It's not like he would pay me, what I was supposed to go earn in those places, even though it wasn't going to affect my work with him. He wanted to keep enjoying my skill set for himself alone. But you see, even this talk still is a distraction from the core issue. So what if I'm angry? I'm human. A man has made a promise. Based on his promise and his permission, I've done a project where I spent money, lost friends, owed debts that took me 3 years to pay back. But it's not even just that alone. His daughter, with whom I signed a legal contract that she publicly announced, still cheated me out of You know, as Atiku owes me, Atiku support organization owe me money, but I have never reached out to these people to say, look, if you don't pay me my money, I will do this. The family put me in a situation where every time I had a need, I had to go literally beg, you know, because out of respect for the man, I never spoke to him with a sense of entitlement. But that is still not the bone of contention. The fact still remains, the question still remains, these facts I have put out, are they the truth? If they are the truth, what are the law agencies of law waiting for? What are Nigerians waiting for? This question should be put to Atiku himself, because he made this statement by himself. His students said these things by themselves. I am not making any allegations against them.
All right.
They said these things. Yes, thank you.
Now let's talk about the part 3 of your revelation. Is it really true that the funding of the Atiku Okowa campaign is being done with Delta State funds?
Well, a serving aide of Governor Okowa said it, not me. I'd like to remind you, as I've done severally on this program already, that I am not making allegations. I'm merely putting out the things they are saying in-house. And so Prince Olatunji is someone very well known and is close to both the governor and to Atiku. And if he said that, I believe him. But it's left for the people of Delta State, you know, to ask these questions of their governor.
All right, then. If these issues are not addressed and get ignored by the anti-corruption agencies, how will you feel?
I'll feel bad, you know, but I'm a Nigerian. I know I've seen a lot of these things happen where people do these things, especially the elite do these things and get away with it. He's like, as always, he's most likely to get away with this one too. But you see, Nigerians should remember something. For decades, the FBI, former president, and a whole lot of people have said the same thing about Atiku, but there was no evidence, you know. But I have provided the first real evidence, confession, if you will, against Atiku. If Nigeria doesn't, you know, seize this moment to begin to show that nobody is above the law, then it's a pity for the country. My job is done.
All right, then. Do you also really think that the Nigerian voters will be swayed or guided by these revelations voting in the election next month?
Yes. I'll tell you why. Every day, I'm inundated with calls, even from within the Atiku political structure. Today, a few hours ago, some directors in ASO have reached out to me saying, look, we are happy about this. We know some of these things too, but lack of courage wouldn't let us come out and speak. I know that just like you heard the SSA to Okowa say, strong word, he said, Okowa will perish. He said, Oga, that's referring to Atiku, is too desperate. That is somebody who is still well embedded presently in their own campaign structure. In 2019, one of the major reasons Atiku lost was because of sabotage from within. In 2023, Atiku will still lose the election. A lot of people are dissatisfied, disillusioned within his camp. You know, there are 4 Atiku people saying, look, after all the work that we did, it's Tambuwal's voice or Saraki's voice or these boys that have come, you know, to profit from the work that we have done. They may not be able to come out publicly to say these things, but I know that from in-house already, Atiku has lost the election. And of course, I'm reading comments, I'm seeing this has gone very, very far, like I intended for it to go, you know, and there's a lot of people who are re-examining their choice, you know, and digging deeper into, you know, Atiku and his family. And I know what they will find out. And I know that if they find out those things, they will not be voting for Atiku.
Yeah, earlier, you made mention of trying to protect your children. So are you in any way afraid for your family or your life, knowing the kind of society we live in?
People have been killed for less. I know the people I worked with and I'm dealing with. Of course, I'm afraid. I'll be lying to say I'm not afraid. But, well, every man must die. It is appointed to every man to die once, and after that judgment, if Atiku has me killed, Atiku will still die. He's not leaving this earth alive. Whichever assassin they used to kill me will still die. And so everybody knows they will die. We just don't know the appointed time and how. So it could be now or tomorrow. If it comes, I accept it, But yes, I'm taking measures, to secure myself and family, but I'm not running.
All right, then. So will you ever agree to a truce with Atiku on this matter?
There's no war between me and Atiku. It's nothing personal. It's I have deep respect for him as a person. Atiku himself will tell anybody who cares to listen, if he wants to say the truth, that throughout my relationship with him, I always told him that while I can support your presidential bid and work hard towards, your success, but I would rather that you build for yourself a legacy that lives long after you. I did tell him that the only thing people are likely to remember of you when you die will be what Obasanjo has said about you. Why not prove to Nigerians that you are not this person, But I guess to him, becoming president, based on the pressure from his children and his wives, like he himself affirmed to me in that email, is more important. Atiku is not a very young person. Whenever he dies, he wants his children to be, as rich and as powerful as he is. And so sometimes, in a lot of instances in Nigeria, this is how the so-called generational wealth is attained, And so just like, they are doing in Adamawa State, always, hustling for juicy positions. It's what they intend to do when they get to Aso Rock. But like I said to Nigerians, look, this thing it's not even rocket science. This man has 31 biological children. 30 of them are adults. All of those adults want to become multi-billionaires. It will put too much of a strain on the resources of this country. Whether you like me or not, does not negate this fact. And if you like your own future, as well as your families, as a citizen of this country, you would agree with me that this isn't a luxury you can afford at this time.
Now, Mr. Achimugu, do you have any fear about the 2023 election, especially that an Atiku victory could put you in harm's way?
Oh, yes, I have that fear. In fact, one of his supporters asked me made a comment on my Twitter handle asking me, what will you do and where will you go when Atiku wins? So I've thought about that. I have that fear, but, well, we are here now. We are here. And this is happening.
Having worked with Atiku Abubakar and being privy, according to you, to his exposure to corruption, what do you think an Atiku presidency portends for Nigeria?
If Nigeria is said to have institutionalized corruption in the past, an Atiku presidency will make it global. It will bring, it will give it wings. We have 30 corrupt children seeking for the same thing to dip their hands into national treasury. You look at the people, because you see, to measure the worth of a leader, you have to look at the people around him. Look at the Dino Melayes, look at the Reno Mokris and the rest of them. The entire horde, of corrupt, people who have never really had anything to do other than pillaging resources and patronizing these politicians. The effect, especially now that we are looking for some sort of economic recovery, will not be good for this nation in any kind of way. You heard them. You heard what the children said. You heard what Atiku himself said. And he did tell me that he wants to retire. He didn't want to run for president this time. But the children pressured him. Why do you think they did so? I have a video of how Atiku, who is speaking ill of our brother Adamu, said that, look, my father's political influence will wane after this particular political circle. And so the time for me to establish myself is now. And so nobody, not even my brother, is going to stand in my way. This is the mentality they are bringing to Asoro, and it's not good for Nigerians.
All right, let me ask you this before we go. If you have any opportunity, will you ask or request for special protection from the authority?
Absolutely, absolutely. In fact, the only reason it took me this long to speak out is because I was looking for some sort of protection, especially for my children. I did make moves to contact. I tried to, even Governor Wike in Rivers State, I tried to contact him. I have never spoken with him even up to date. That didn't come through. I tried to reach out to a few other persons. But at the end of the day, look, no matter, people have been under the protection of government and still died before, So at the end of the day, the only victory I have lies in the hands of the Nigerian people. But yes, I'd expect government. I'm a whistleblower. I've come up with facts that are verifiable. I expect the government to do its duty and give me protection.
So then, how will you intend, or how do you intend to go about all of this?
How do I intend to do what?
How do you intend to go about this special protection?
That's not for me to decide. If the government's ready to protect me, I'm sure they have an apparatus. They have their ways of doing so. I'm here. I'm still here. I'm waiting to know what will happen. But in the meantime, I'm taking defensive measures. I'm just trying to stay safe with my family, until such a moment comes. However, if anything happens to me before then, well, I guess it's good night and goodbye.
Yes, I know you said you have tried to contact Governor Wike, but to no avail. Are you still in the process?
No, I'm not.
All right, sir. All right, then. Mr. Michael Achimugu, that will be all. Thank you very much for coming on Politics Tonight. Michael Achimugu is the former aide of the former Vice President, Atiku Abubakar, who spoke about corruption allegations. It was indeed an exclusive episode with you. Thank you very much for coming.
Thank you.
All right, then, and thank you very much for watching. That's all we have for you on Politics Tonight. Thank you so much for watching. I am Olajumoke Olatunji. Goodbye.
Nigeria needs focused leadership to take decisive action to end insecurity, reposition our economy for businesses to thrive, and restore total peace in the land. Tinubu is the right man for the job. Through innovation and technology, he will reposition Nigeria for businesses to thrive.